So what I'm going to go after is show you what I'm working really with the kids is the wag of the tail.
Oh yes, that would be great because I'm a little unclear on that.
So what people don't realize is the sacrum gets pretty fixed, and in a lot of adults we've already broken the sucker or whatever because we've fallen on our ass, and that's fine too. So most people, I was taught to just go through the SI joint kind of thing, and I'm like, yeah, well that was good for like a day. So what I start to do is see I'm underneath the sit bones and I'm in the sacrum. I don't always work right on the bone, but in this case I do like to work on the sacrum versus the SI. But what I'm doing is rotating with the premise that I'm going to get your tail to wag.
Mm.
So see how I'm not going into the joint? Mm-hmm. That's a different feeling than rotating. What I'm also doing here is what I showed you on the other hand, is I'm doing a lift and bringing it back down. Does that make sense? Well, with most people, the pelvic region becomes one giant thing, right? So what I'm trying to do is actually lift, see, and that drop. But I'm doing it a bit more controlled with that. But I want these ligaments in here. You're strung up like a football in through here, and a lot of people don't get that differentiation of the depth of the ligaments, how they have to move, and they become very, very bound. If I really have a problem, I'll palm heel it right up over here. Same thing. I'm going forward. My intention is how that tailbone wags. For some people, this movement alone, because you're moving the femur, hip joint, and pelvis, you might need a bit of tonus here, especially if it's like a big old guy. That's where it's bugging me. So feel how your colon and everything drops and rolls forward right here. Do you feel that in your abdomen? So I'll come back again. So feel your abdomen rotating, going forward.
Okay.
And feel right here. See, your abdomen's not taking this hip forward. Do you feel that?
Right.
So what I'm doing is when I push, this isn't going any further. This part here. What I want to happen is I do that someone's presenting to the table or their abdomen's rolling forward. So, but most people assume that's always inflection. But a lot of times it's just that the system can't handle just that going forward. And the system won't be able to go forward if the elbows too. Like if you're riding a horse, you need your elbows to just sway in the wind. But if you're fixing the elbows, you know what I mean? Then you're doing it through your pelvis.
Well, actually the elbows go like this. They open and close in the joint. And the movement of the horse opens them, and then when the horse comes back, they close.
Yeah, but if you look at the way the reins are, there should be a slight rotation in that.
Well, the way that I'm being taught is just this.
Right, but when you do that, then you're going to contract right through here, because then your movement's going to go through your pelvis.
That's right. That's right.
And so that's where you're going to get, versus here. See, see how my lungs billow and go more versus here. See the difference?
Well, I'm just starting to work on this part of it.
I'm not trying to correct your horseback riding. I'm trying to tell you where your body is going to start getting a little, or you're going to have to, if that's the way you want to ride, it's fine, but when you come off the horse, you're going to have to work on, again, that extension. Belly hangs out, you know what I mean? It comes to the table versus...
Yeah.
And where it shortens your neck.
Yeah.
So, that's all. I mean, like ballerinas have got the most screwed up bodies possible.
Oh, man, isn't it?
But they don't know how to come off the stage. I don't mind you dance like that, but you have to give it a break. Same thing. I can't tell him now to fiddle with the other side. He's always going to have to hold here. But, so, what I'm doing here, again, imagine that I'm going into that bowl sideways, rotating up in, catching that back, and then see how I can come down and just bring that abdomen down to the table. That's it. So see how the tailbone is learning how to have extension right through there. So think of a tight ass. Feel the difference? Let the bum go. See how that extension in through. No difference if this is the tip of your tailbone and feeling that extension in through. That's what you're looking for in your touch. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Now that can go all the way down here to again where I'm pulling but see that's where you're catching again. If I pull, so it's like a bow and an arrow and it's only going so far. So that's where I have to add the knee a little bit more. See how and then that's much better. So now we'll go back and see if that makes a difference.
That's interesting.
Right. But now when you go to roll over, you should start doing it more as if there's a string on the belly versus the tuck and roll, where a lot of people like to do. Like, again, that's where you get special needs. Because they tuck and roll versus rolling through the belly. So now feel how nice that is.
Oh, it's so much better.
But see again how that movement has someplace to go. Now you can start doing more FI stuff of this kind of work that we're more trained. But again, notice I'm in that sacrum, that tailbone, and twisting that coccyx, so now it's going down to the left foot. So I want that coccyx to twist and go as you're coming back or going forward. So now, see how I have a nice wag of the tail? Does that make sense? So now here I can start fine-tuning my piano. So I'm going down into the lower, or I should say middle back, but I'm looking for that sit bone to come above the vertebrae. Again, most people get very fixed in here, excuse my hand position, and they really don't get to more of that seesaw through the pelvic region. But with the kids, to come actually in here into the groin and actually move that whole sit bone is huge. I just, like I said, can't do it on grown adults. Now I've seen Feldenkrais, adjust and work with the pubic bone, but I'm not. Ted's finally saved up enough money and bought her aunt there, and I forget what I think they were doing an ATM. He wanted the aunt to move, and he's like, "What do you think? You have something precious in between those legs?" Needless to say, the aunt didn't come back. See now, that's it.
And that's the spot right there that seems to get stuck.
Well, what it's doing is trying to keep your tailbone from wagging. I'm trying to give it the opposite. So, I'm going to go back to fine detailed work. I'm going underneath the bum, lifting the bum as I'm rotating the pelvis. There's a real tendency here of doing some really big moves. And the big moves are fine. But right there is the big move that just happened. See how you're now falling into my hand. Let's feel it. So now, I come over here. This is a very important transfer of weight. So see how this is a leg lift. So I can't go past the lift. I want it to be a transfer. So I'm hooking into your femur right now. Again, notice how I'm rotating and sliding the femur out. So as I'm bringing in to the inside of the leg, I'm bringing out on the outside of the femur. There we go. So the initials of rotation are happening. Again, my tonus is a lot like I'm working with dough. I don't want to rip the dough, but it has a little bit of a tooth to it. That's it. There we go. Always stay where it's a transfer and not a lift.
That's such an important concept.
Yep. Transfer. Is it making more sense now?
Yeah.
But see how nice now that whole lower back and the hip, everything's functioning now because you're just transferring around your body. I mean, I know you're capable of lifting your leg, but
No,
this is but look at what it does to your at a cellular level.
Yeah.
If you're preparing for a lift, you're going to get really bounded here. If you're preparing for a transfer, your muscles now are ready to respond if needed.
Right, and it's this part in here that is getting sore. And when you do it the way you've just been doing it, transferring it, it's much more comfortable.
And also now see how nicely you're bringing your weight to your hands. So I could turn it around and to do it into something like this. So where I'm transferring your weight over to your hand.
You mean like over my hand standing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I could do the same thing. I can come it back to your foot, working
yeah.
with standing. So that's what I'm just saying, where you can bring this lesson. I can now start working with the leg coming behind.
Ah.
See, this is nice since the muscles are so released now in the glutes. And that's where a lot of seniors don't get this walking backwards, that kind of thing, and bring the pelvis over the foot. But again, I'm not pushing forward, always with the rotation.
Yeah, boy, I'm really actually getting I'm waking up too. I'm getting a totally different perspective on the movement of the hip.
Well, it should be like a baby, and I should be able to come back here. See, now this is where it's way too much of a conversation. But, you know, when you say kindly, oh, does your child bring their feet to their mouth? You know what I mean? You should already know that answer without even asking because of the way that the child's presenting. And if you see the hips doing this kind of thing, do you know what I mean? You're not going to see that same conversation of the legs going back up where the knees can go back to the table.
I don't think I could take my own feet to my mouth.
Oh, I could get you there, buddy. See how nice that is?
Yeah.
But same thing too, now I can come here and finish bringing this sacrum to and tailbone to the table. So now, again, it looks like I'm working on your back. My objective is bringing the tailbone at an angle down to the table. Okay? So very similar again, like tuning a piano string. I'm just feeling where that tonus is going to allow me to make that happen. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So as I go up, I'm not going, oh, this little piggy went to market. I'm looking to see if that tonus or that vibration rate on that string has been affected. And if there's one area that it's too tight, that's going to affect the drop of the tailbone. Now, for some people, if I find that that's a little bit of an issue, this propping here is also quite nice. I can take the ball right here for now. That way you're not worried about holding your hip up in space. and I can just work on the back tonus. But notice how I'm still going into the ball. Taking the ball out, just seeing if that made a difference. Now see how you just naturally want to rotate now down to the table. So now I can work just that teeter-totter of the chest cavity from the knee, bringing the leg back. But notice again, I have my knee here to prop you. I'm always using my body. Now, that depends too. If I'm working with someone that's very reserved, I'm not going to have them wrapped around my legs. And see now how you have much more power now throwing that arm. That's what I want to see in a karate, and especially this, where the foot comes behind, the leg goes forward, that automatic transfer. Now I could work here saying push me away, so go long in the foot, feel pushing, and now relax, come back. Now, as you do that.
That feels good. That feels good here.
Right. And now go up to take this arm and bring it up to the corner of the table as I'm bringing the foot back. So see how you can go nicely into more of an FI now. Now go forward like extension. That's it. Don't hold the arm. Rotate it out. Oh, you're going to bring your knuckles in, your pink that way. Yeah, so when you go, just like you're punching. That's it.
Okay.
And then relax. See how nice now? And how synchronized everything is. So now I can work on the transfer here of the hip, of the weight.